Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? We made it! It's episode 64 of the Best Games, period. I'm your host, Jack Gardner, and with me this week is Daniel Jones and Jeremy Brown.
Jack, do you know who wrote that song?
Is it the Rolling Dung Beatles? Is that...
No, specifically out of the Beatles. Do you know who wrote that song?
It's probably not Ringo.
Ringo. Yeah, it was Ringo. It was one of the very few that he wrote.
Ding, wait. I failed it. Okay, but Octopus's Garden is the only one he's sang, right?
Now he's saying other ones.
He's saying other ones. That's the most mainstream one he's saying.
the most mainstream of the Beatles songs. You know. You might not have heard some of their other ones. But
I heard somewhere that they generally stuck to like 2 Ringo songs per album, 2 George Harrison songs.
Oh no,
and like 4 John and Paul songs.
Oh, there's no way. There's like 4 Ringo songs. Period. There's probably 6 George, and the rest are John or Paul.
There's more than 4 Ringo songs.
Did he sing?
There was very few.
Are
few Ringo.
Not that he sings, that he wrote.
Yes. That's entirely possible.
No, just for writing.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and anyway, so 64 episodes. We're all 3 of us back together again. It's been a wild ride the last month and a half or so. It's nice to have you all of us back together on an episode.
The gang is back together.
The boys are back in town.
And so this week we're going to be talking about Papo y Yo, or as it's written in other places, Papo and Yo.
But don't say it that way.
That's so weird. Because I don't. There are that's such Spanglish. Don't say it that way.
Yeah, it's a weird Spanglish that like white people can't do.
But is E not literally translated to and? So
yeah, but then yo is literally translated to I, so it would be
true.
Papo and I.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
So when you say Papo and yo, that's just totally.
It's like you're living in a border town at that point.
Yeah.
Or Willimantic, Connecticut.
I mean, I suppose.
I don't get that reference.
That's the town I live in.
Why would you be saying it?
There's
in
a lot of
there's a lot of Spanish people.
There's a lot of heritage in
people.
Willimantic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe
and
before we
lots of heroin also.
Yeah.
Lots of hairy women. Yes.
And frogs. You would not believe the frogs they have there. My God.
Well, after this year's plague, it's too many frogs.
Jack, have you heard the story about frogs about Willimantic?
I lived it.
Wyndham?
I lived it last week.
Connecticut?
No,
you didn't live it.
Old school story.
Oh no, you did not live this, Jack, unless you were alive in the Revolutionary War.
It
was French-Indian War, wasn't it?
There's another frog plague story.
It was the Revolutionary War.
It was a Revolutionary? Jeremy knows the history of my town better than I do. There was it was during the Revolutionary War, and the people in the town, it was the summer, and there was a really bad drought. And one night, everybody in the town, it was a small town, so people in the town woke up in the middle of the night to what they thought was the sound of a battle going on nearby.
Okay.
It sounded like a battle, and it went on most of the night. And then in the morning, people came out and they went where the sound was coming from. And they thought...
In the morning, they were just like, there's a battle going on somewhere near here. Let's go back to bed.
Well, if there's a battle going on, you stay in your freaking house.
The militia didn't fight in the dark.
I
mean, it's not like it is now. So yes, the militia woke up and they're assembled and they went to this area and they just found bullfrogs. No British.
It was bullfrogs fighting over the last drop of water in this pond.
Yep.
Man, that seems like a story you would want to bury forever if you're part of that militia. You wouldn't want to tell anyone about that.
This town made a bridge out of that story.
Oh, yeah. No, they embraced
really?
their ridiculous story here.
It wasn't like, guys, I know we just got out of bed in the middle of the night, but we can't tell anyone that there wasn't an actual battle going on because that will be incredibly embarrassing.
You can cross a bridge in Willimantic where these huge frogs are sitting atop these spools of thread for
because there used to be a thread mill here.
So that's kind of like the history of the town. Thread mills and frogs.
You're not kidding. They really embraced their heritage there. They literally made statues on the bridge for thread and frogs.
It's a cool bridge. You should see it.
Look up Willimantic, Connecticut Frog Bridge.
I have a hard time imagining that that's a cool bridge, but I will definitely look that up.
It makes you
Jack,
think as
cool
you cross
bridge.
over it, where you're like, what the hell? What does thread and frogs have to do with anything? But they both have their place.
All right.
Apparently that's how you make heroin.
Apparently.
If only it was that easy. Anyway.
Jeremy, what do you think of Far Cry 5 being set in Montana?
Well, nobody guarantees it's set in Montana yet. That was just a teaser trailer.
Yes, it is.
It's Hope
Is it?
County,
What are you talking
Montana.
I think it's awesome.
There's a teaser trailer that said Montana.
I think Montana is a great setting for a lot of video games. I'm not sure what the entire context of Far Cry 5 is going to be, but if it's maybe like post-apocalyptic and...
No, it looks like it's set in like modern times.
Modern or like the 80s.
And with like...
Can't quite tell.
Okay,
I
well...
think focus on a cult.
In that
It
case...
looks like a cult.
There's really no enemies to kill, so I don't really understand. But
So
there's like 9 of us.
They had the teaser trailer, and then they had a teaser image that was like a take of The Last Supper, except with like crazy gun-toting what appear to be cult members.
Almost made me think of the guys that took over the national park a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, I mean, that's Nevada. Like, if they're really looking for the take on the whole, like, cult thing, like, northern Idaho would be a much better setting. Because that shit is legit and real there.
Yeah, but Montana's beautiful.
So is northern Idaho.
Doesn't have Glacier National Park.
What cults do they have in northern Idaho?
That's like, literally the...
That's their thing. That's what they do. Potatoes and cults.
That's like the base of the entire white supremacist movement. Is in Hayden Lake, Idaho.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was, maybe... I thought it was Utah for some reason.
Well, I mean...
No, that's Mormons,
No,
Jack.
no.
Every state has their thing, but no, northern Idaho is like just flush. You don't go to that area without packing heat, and that's even as a white person. Just for the fact that you may like black people or Jews, who knows? No, it's pretty terrible there.
Wow. All right.
Yep, just an hour drive from Spokane.
Oh, I think I was thinking of Oregon. You said white supremacist movement, and I was just reading recently about how Oregon like didn't allow black people to settle there for a long time.
Yeah, but
I don't know. It's a pretty progressive state.
Oregon's
now,
pretty progressive now. Just in your spare time, Google Hayden Lake, Idaho. You'll see.
Is there just like a bunch of cults there living together?
Yeah. I mean, in a roundabout way, they've kind of combined and merged into one, but
so it's like a weird mishmash of cults.
It's not a place you want to go.
You say that like you've been there.
I've been there many times.
Really?
Back when I used to go back and forth to Washington a lot for reasons I won't say.
Uh-huh.
The best route was to go through there because the cops didn't pull you over there. Probably because they're afraid of getting shot, or probably because they're racist themselves. Yeah, no, it's...
And you're a white dude with no hair, so you probably...
No, back then, I was, I wore Jinko pants and FUBU jerseys and whatnot. I was not looked well upon.
For us, by us.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Far Cry 5.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No bueno on the Montana thing?
Me?
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
How do you feel about your
a Far Cry game set
state
in Montana
being the setting of a violent
awesome.
video game?
But
Okay.
the idea that we're in an extremely violent state that has like millions of enemies that are going to come at you in this game is kind of laughable. Because we have like, again, 9 people.
Well, so Jeremy, it doesn't have to be millions of people. It can just be like 20,000 people all concentrated in like I don't know, like 10-mile square area. That sounds awfully like Montana.
It could be. I don't know.
The front runner for your special election just friggin'
Body slammed a
decked
dude.
it
And he's still going to win.
and he's still gonna win.
Wait, what? What is this?
Just tonight, a reporter from The Guardian asked him about the healthcare bill, and he body slammed him.
I mean,
That's
to be
why?
fair, the other guy is actually equally terrible, but you don't body slam people. I'm sorry, you just don't.
But what warranted the body slam? Was it just like, I've had enough, I'm going to body slam
I don't
you
know.
kind of
Question?
situation?
Nah, this dude's like some like billionaire from New Jersey that came to Montana like 20 years ago and thinks he
Decided
has
to body slam
Montana
people.
body. He actually ran for governor and came within like 2,000 votes of winning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Greg Gianforte. I like to call him Giant Farte.
The most sophisticated take on his last
And,
name.
I mean, I actually voted against him. I voted for the Democrat as opposed to him.
Whoa,
Right?
Jeremy. Whoa, slow down, you flaming liberal, you.
Yeah. No, he's just such a hypocrite that whatever.
So,
How have you been, though, Jack?
I'm okay. I've ordered a few retro RPGs that I really want to... I have too many games, but I want to get into Suikoden 2. I ordered that. And I also got
Wait.
Chrono Cross.
Did you say Suikoden?
I did.
Is it not Suikoden?
I'm pretty sure it's...
I always said Suikoden because it's got the I.
Yeah. I've always been confused how to pronounce it, and I think someone at some point just... I heard someone saying Suikoden, and that's just how I've always said it.
I see.
Yeah. So I want to get into those. I still have to play Horizon and The Last Guardian, and I'm halfway through
Okay.
Outlast 2 that I'm trying to finish that up to write a review. And I'm still in the middle of just like going nuts trying to schedule all the things for E3, which is a project unto itself, because my goodness, PR companies really like to yank your chain around.
Is it better this year than last year, at least?
Well, yes, but also no, because so I don't know if I've talked about this on the show before. I probably have, but like the last several years, I was under the impression that there was this magical list that had like the PR contacts for a bunch of different all the companies that present at E3, and like how to get in contact and like, you know, make appointments and stuff like that. And I was under that impression because people have told me in years past that this list exists, and so I've been trying to find it. And last year I thought I had it nailed down. I thought I was going to get it, and so I waited like right up until like the very end of when you can actually make appointments. And then I found out it wasn't, like, the list actually does exist, but it exists in the, only one person has that list, and it's like someone high up at the ESA, and they're not giving it to anyone. So I'm never going to get that list. It was a
Isn't
fool's
it,
dream.
like, aren't you supposed to... Don't you get put on a mailing list?
So yes, but also not... a ton of... Most companies aren't going to reach out to you that way. Like, when you sign up for E3, if you're media, you do get put on, like, a list of, like, oh, here's all the things you're interested in, and people will reach out to you. Except, at least in my experience, that doesn't happen. And that might be partly because Extra Life isn't really the biggest outlet out there. I'm sure people at like Game Informer or Kotaku get, requests from a lot of different companies, but we don't really necessarily. So the onus becomes put on me to like make all those appointments happen, and so I'm the one reaching out to all the individual PR companies that I know of and just different companies and trying to get as many appointments as possible. And that's that was a long way to get around to. This year I had more time to actually reach out to these companies and wait for responses and stuff like that. But it's funny because like a lot of the smaller developers are always happy to talk about their games, and I love meeting with them and scheduling appointments. It's the bigger developers and publishers that really just kind of get under my skin, because they're often the ones who are like, oh, we're still trying to figure things out. We'll get back to you next week. And then they tell you that 3 weeks in a row. And then finally they'll tell you, oh, sorry, we're all full up. Nothing we can do. And that's because in the weeks that they're telling you, get back to us next week, they're talking with other larger outlets. And like I can't get too mad, because that's their job as a PR company to get their game in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And if you don't have the audience that they're looking for, they're not gonna make time for you. That being said, I've been to enough E3s at this point to know that letting a couple more people into like Nintendo's area for press isn't gonna break their schedule. And so it's just irritating to me, and not to call out Nintendo specifically, because there are several other major companies that are just like, oh, we're pretty full right now, but check back next week. And it's like, yeah, I will check back next week, but I know what you're doing, and it just kind of irritates me.
So there's one list to rule them all, and in the darkness mind them.
Exactly. Actually, that's what I've mentally compared it to. It's the One Ring. It's my white whale, and I'm not gonna get it. I'm not gonna get it. But at least it's comforting to know that it actually does exist, and I'm not just crazy. So anyway, that's kind of been my life, and will be my life for like the next couple weeks here.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks, but cool. So can we talk about Papa and I?
Popeye and I?
Popeye.
Yeah. So. Sorry, I have to burp. So. Papo y Yo.
Wait, hold on.
Holding on.
One more thing I just have to mention, and then we'll talk about Papo y Yo.
Oh, God.
Holding out for a hero.
I beat Downwell today.
Oh, yeah?
Wait.
Was it today?
Or
I thought
yesterday.
it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
You can actually beat that game?
Yes! And I did it!
So now what?
Yeah, what happens when you beat it?
Nothing. You start over again.
And you feel accomplished.
You see the credits. You watch the credits. There's credits.
Uh-huh.
It lasted about 30 seconds. No, 20 seconds. And then you start over again.
What is the plot of Downwell? Are you, like, as far as I know, you're just falling down a hole.
Yeah, you fall down a hole. You go through
the plot of
4
life,
different,
Jack.
Okay.
4 different phases, 4 worlds with 3 levels in each, and then there's this giant, like, boss thing. It's a big, like, skull that turns red and spits out fire at you.
So how do you defeat that? You just keep bouncing on its head, or what?
No, you have little platforms that you can stand on, and you shoot down at it, but you have to dodge all of its attacks, and it goes through enemies. It goes through all 4 different phases of the game, and each one takes about 30 seconds or so. So it's a pretty lengthy little fight that you have to do against this boss dude. And then finally, when you defeat him, you just keep falling for what feels like a minute. And then you get to the bottom, I almost turned the game off because I was like, "Is this it? Is it just like a
glitch?
Pac-Man glitch at the end?" So like, no. You keep falling, then you get to the bottom, and there's a cat there, and you run over to the cat, and you pick it up, and that's the end of the game.
Aw, you were falling down a hole to save your cat.
Yep.
Aw, it's cute.
I don't know how the cat survived all the ghosts and the underwater creatures and all the devil orbs.
Does it start?
I don't know.
Does it start trying to eat the lint in your belly button?
So
Yes.
The concept of this game is you just keep going down so you can get some pussy?
Yeah. It's basically like a metaphor for your 20s.
I mean, makes sense.
Yep. All right, so that's all. I just felt very accomplished. I've been playing that game on my phone for about a year and a half now, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I play it a lot at work. And
Are you gonna keep playing it?
I played it some more today, and then I was just like, well,
Why?
I don't know. I know. I kind of just didn't feel motivated to anymore.
Well, now,
Because I've just been chasing that whale for a while.
I mean, I was
Finally
going to finish it, but you spoiled it for me, so yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's actually a really fun game.
It's just super hard, and when I
Yeah.
first started playing it, I could barely get past the first world.
It's like
And so-
Super Meat Boy, except vertical in a roundabout way.
Yeah. So
Super
the fact
Seat
that I-
Boy? What?
What?
What'd you say?
Super Meat Boy, except vertical
Okay.
in a roundabout way.
Gotcha.
So anyway,
Okay.
all right.
Alright.
So that's that.
So
That's the best game. Period. By the way.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I mean, we'll discuss that
Yes.
someday.
You-
We'll discuss it.
You
It's
think
not
that.
going to be an honorable mention. That game is more than an honorable mention. But anyway.
all right. Anyway,
All right.
Papo y Yo, which you nominated this game this week, Daniel.
I did.
You're the one who brought this up,
And promptly told me it's terrible. So what's up with that?
So what's the deal, Two-Face? Harvey Dent over here.
Because I believe that it holds a lot of value. And it's a game that people don't talk about a lot anymore. It's a very flawed game, but I can see a world where Papo y Yo could have been easily a best game period if it was just a little bit more polished around the edges. Maybe 6 more months of development at least.
Okay, so Papo y Yo was developed by Minority Media and released in 2012 on the PlayStation 3 as a downloadable title, and then over the next couple years came out on like Steam and Mac, stuff like that. And it's a puzzle platformer emotional game. I don't like the term emotional game or empathy games. I think that's kind of a trite way of talking about games. But
Yeah, because like
but this
every game kind of is that.
well, right, exactly. But this game was kind of the one, at least as far as I remember, that was kind of at the forefront of people beginning to talk about empathy games back in the day. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Already. Jeez.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. It's a
it's-
strange duck.
It's definitely a forefather to things like That Dragon Cancer.
Yeah, because the developer had very personal... I mean, this was his story, so to speak. So
Right.
it's hard to discount anything on that game. Because when there's games like that, you just feel for them, whether they're good or not. This game
Well, that's the thing.
seems to not be really that good, though.
So just to go over what Papo y Yo is really about, it's not a super long game. It's a 3D platformer puzzle game where you play as a little boy. Can't remember his name now.
I don't
Kinko?
know how to
Quinto?
Yeah, it's...
King...
I want to...
Kaiko or something like
let's just
that.
call him Iglesias.
Kiko?
Kiko.
Kiko.
It's Kiko.
Yes, Kiko.
So, you play as this little boy, and at the beginning you kind of see that in the real world, his father is an alcoholic.
And it's also set in Brazil.
Yes, thank you. Set in Brazil,
and just
which is...
Sorry,
no,
I'm
I am
interrupting
doing this.
you. I just want to, as a side note, like it all takes place in like the favelas, which was something that came up recently during kind of the Olympics. That was kind of
like a very highly populated area of Brazil, the slums. I mean,
yeah. Think Fast 6. I think Fast and the Furious 6.
No, I think like
they drive through the favelas.
I think like Rio 2016.
Also, Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, okay, I guess there was some of that.
Okay.
Also, real people live there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I said Rio 2016.
So, he lives in the favelas in Brazil, so that's the backdrop for all of this. But it is very fantastical.
Luckily, no Americans came into where he works and peed all over the place after trashing it. That's a deep cut for you, Olympic fans.
Oh, right.
I mean, what else were they going to do?
I don't know, not pee in it?
I mean, there's really nothing left there, so why not pee on it? I don't know.
It's a store. It's owned by someone. They sell things.
No.
gasoline.
I guess I'm talking about the whole Olympic venue as an idea. There was billions of dollars spent on that, and all to get tainted water. Sad thing.
I mean, the same happened with Fire Festival. These things happen.
Fire Festival and the Olympics are two completely different things.
I don't know what you're talking about. Did the Olympics have Emily Ratajkowski?
Probably.
Did they have Ja Rule? No.
No. So, Fire Festival 1, Olympics 0.
I'm just saying, the
all right.
Olympics did a very terrible job of setting up Brazil as a successful place to have an Olympic Games.
No, it should have been in Boston, like it almost was. It should have been in Boston.
I mean, the Olympics don't, as far as I know, it's not like the Olympics come in and fund everything. It's the country who pays for it all. So.
Oh, no, you're wrong.
Really?
Yes, really. Completely, really.
No, really, yeah.
I thought the Olympics were
We're
like...
talking like $35 billion. The government wasted it. And that's why we ended up with what we had.
No, that's exactly what I was saying. Like, the government of Brazil pays for the Olympics, and they totally wasted it.
They get that money from the Olympic Committee.
Yeah, so Papo y Yo has nothing to do with the Olympics, except there is a part where you can kick a soccer ball. And so this boy, when he goes into this fantasy world, there's a monster there. And it's a friendly monster, except if you feed it these colorful, poisonous frogs. And the poisonous frogs turn it into a mean monster, and it boils hot red fire, and it chases after the boy.
You don't really feed it the frogs. It hunts out and seeks the frogs and eats them on their own, which is really strange.
Sometimes you have to feed it.
Well,
Sometimes you have to feed
you
it.
gotta feed him the rotten fruit.
Yeah, the fruit calms him down.
But don't you have to sometimes feed it the rotten frogs?
You may for some puzzles.
To solve puzzles?
Yeah.
For certain things? Yeah. So anyway, if he eats a poisonous frog, anyway, whatever. You're right. And then you have to feed him fruit to calm him down.
In which the puzzles are ridiculous. They're not even hard. They're just like obvious.
Yeah, for the most part they are. Sometimes I got stuck, but it was not the puzzle being hard so much as just the geography and the controls.
And maybe your intelligence level. I mean, there's lots of factors that can come into play here.
No, see, I played this game right when it came out, so it was incredibly unpolished. I think it got patched after that, but when it came out, this was the Assassin's Creed Unity of indie games. Like, it was a mess. I got most of the way through. I got to this final area, and there's this section where you have to platform across these floating platforms, and
You have to platform
jump
across the platforms?
shut the hell up, Jack. You have to jump across these floating platforms, and I kept trying over and over, and there was some weird invisible wall in my way at one of the platforms. And just tonight, I watched an IGN review of the game.
Oh my god, they were harsh on that game.
They hit the same bug. And it pissed me right off because I knew that I was right near the end. This was like the final boss section of the game. And I couldn't get to it. So I put it down for a couple of weeks, and I had heard that they patched it, so I picked it back up and I finished it. And by that point, the poignancy of the ending was completely lost on me and ruined. But I could see what they were trying to do with it, and I think under different circumstances, this game really would have been special. I think they were really onto something, but it was just a lack of polish, and it's possible that they just ran out of money and they needed to get it out. It's very, very possible with an indie developer that was self-publishing at the time. So it's just a shame. Because I think Papo y Yo had some great ideas. No.
So are you saying that if this had released in pristine, unbugged condition, would you say that it would be a best game period? Like, I'm trying to nail down how you're approaching this.
So
like,
that's
impossible
just on the technical level.
That's the thing. I haven't gone back to play it. I should go back. I should have gone back to play it before the show. But as far as I know, it is pretty clear of all the bugs, which is good because there were a lot of them. But I think even still, it's very debatable. Like Jeremy said, the puzzles are incredibly simple. The platforming doesn't feel good. It's just kind of a thing that you do. It's not necessarily, like, I don't know if you disagree, Jack, but it's just kind of a thing that you do in the game. Never necessarily feels great. And every time that Papo turned into an angry monster, I grimaced because I just didn't feel like dealing with it. You know? Like, it was not a thing that I wanted to do. Like, that happened, and I'm just like,
I mean, maybe that's in line with the thematic message of the game, though. Huh?
And that's the thing. Like,
but there's no
Totally.
Sorry.
No, totally.
There's no repercussion when he turns into an evil monster. He, like, tosses you around, but nothing happens. You just wait it out and find a rotten fruit and call it good.
Except I think kind of like... So, like, the entirety of Papo y Yo, or almost the entirety of it, takes place in kind of this imaginative dreamscape.
Well, yeah.
That's more, like, representative of, like, what's going on in this kid's life. And so, on a mechanical level, I agree with you. Like, there aren't any repercussions. But if you're also looking at it as, like, these are symbolic things that are happening to him in real life, it gets pretty horrifying.
No, thematically and the underlying story is great. Like, the game starts out where you're hiding in your closet from your abusive and alcoholic father, right? And suddenly there's this thing, this thing that just shows up on the wall, and it takes you to this dream world that you can escape from. And yes, Papa, the monster, whatever, is definitely symbolic of that situation. But that doesn't translate well into the way the gameplay mechanics are, because it's pretty silly as far as gameplay mechanics.
I'm not going to try and defend the mechanics of Papo y Yo, because I do think that all the mechanics and stuff serve as boring and unimaginative ways of getting to the surreal visuals and also the story that they're trying to tell. Like, the visuals and the story are the main things that Papo y Yo have going for it. It's not the puzzles, it's not the platforming, right. It's none of that stuff. And all that stuff that's there just kind of feels like it's there to pad out the story. And so and usually I bring up I've been trying to bring up these negative reviews at the end, but there's one from Metacritic that I just wanted to read, and it just says they gave it a 4 out of 10, and it says boring. This is from user AWG from August 17th, 2013. It says boring. If you have a sad story to tell about your childhood, write a book about it. Don't create a bugged video game. Which, that's kind of why this game doesn't quite work for me. Like, I get what it's trying to do with the mechanics and the storytelling and the visuals. I get everything it's trying to do. It's just that it's not satisfying to play, even compared to something that would be more traditionally seen as a walking simulator, like that Dragon Cancer. That Dragon Cancer is very engrossing. You just go with it. You flow with the story. The mechanics all kind of work together.
It's engrossing because it's more of a graphic novel than a traditional type video game. This game tried to do a lot of things that maybe it shouldn't have. If it had taken the approach that Dragon Cancer did, I think it would be critically acclaimed.
Well, and I think and that Dragon Cancer does do a lot of video game-y things, but it does them in a way that makes sense, and it doesn't overstay in ways that don't overstay their welcome.
Correct.
There is a section of platforming and kind of almost arcade style gameplay in that Dragon Cancer, and if you built an entire game around that gameplay, it would be awful. But as a 10-minute long diversion from what you have been playing up until that point, it works just fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference, personally.
Yeah. I mean, if Papo y Yo did more types of gameplay that were at the same level of refinement as the rest of this game, and you had more variety there that kind of explored the different aspects of this relationship that Kiko has with his father, that might be a much more solid game. But instead you have what you have. And so
I think
it's they tried to do too much, and I wonder where that pressure came from. Maybe it came from nowhere. I don't know.
Well, I think the thing about Papo y Yo is that it's a game that is stuck between wanting to tell a story and wanting to be a game that you can play that feels like a game, and the two parts of it, the gameplay and the story, don't intersect very well. And so they try to make the gameplay representative of the story with the allegory of Papo representing the papa, the dad. And by doing that, all they really do is simplify alcoholism and simplify the dad character down to a gameplay mechanic, and it belittles it in a way.
It does. I agree.
It makes it less of a thing and just more of just a gameplay thing that you have to get through and deal with. It's not emphasizing or tying into the alcoholism. It's just simply using the allegory and then not connecting the two in meaningful, interesting ways. They're both very separate. A game that it reminds me of is this game called Bound that came out last year on PS4, and they're very similar in a lot of ways. The gameplay of Bound is very much platformer adventure gameplay. Non-violent for the most part, I think. I'm trying to remember it, but fairly non-violent, and it's just like walking simulator-ish. But then around the edges, there's like this allegory going on for this family, and the dad is abusive, and it's very similar in so many ways in that Bound also fails its allegory by only representing it in gameplay means and not embracing the story that it's actually trying to tell. And I think games feel like they have to present these things in allegorical terms instead of just facing them head on. And that's what Papo y Yo does. It kind of sidesteps the alcoholism and presents it in this way that is maybe a little more palatable, but ultimately hollow and shallow.
The game starts out very intriguing and actually ends pretty well. It's everything in the middle. It's like meh.
Yeah, so I disagree that it's shallow. This might be a cop-out, but because it takes place from the point of view of this kid who's trying to just survive. Like, the game isn't really about the father and his alcoholism and his struggle. It's more about the kid and the kid just trying to make sense of his situation, because he does have to deal with his dad when his dad's angry and rampaging and harmful, but he also has to deal with his dad when he's kind and nice and not angry.
But you know what would have really sold that for me? Would have been some sequences where you see Kiko in real life actually dealing with his dad in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
Where it played like the rest of the game plays.
Yeah.
But so tie those two things together and show that. I just think they didn't go far enough.
And that might be because I don't think prior to this Minority Media had made anything.
No.
They
had worked in the industry, but they had never.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the studio's first game together.
Right.
And so I think, and that, maybe that's part of the reason why it released with so many bugs. Like, I have to imagine they were operating on a very shoestring budget, and I am almost willing to bet that they considered doing exactly what you were suggesting by adding more levels that had kind of more real world levels, but that would also include making all the real world stages and the real world character models, and I have to imagine that comes with a pretty big price tag for a smaller developer.
Yeah, I mean,
even just the 6 months more to squash all the bugs.
Exactly.
Probably...
When you're an indie developer, to try to add anything in at some point is a big deal. So
yeah,
there's that.
But on the other hand, you're 100% right. That would have made the game better.
Oh, definitely.
And so using they didn't have enough money as an excuse, where it works as an excuse, but it doesn't really work in terms of, view this game more favorably knowing it could have been more better. We just didn't have the money.
Have they released another game since then?
They've been doing more iOS kind of apps and games. I know they did a game called Seasons of Spring, I think it's called. Spirits of Spring.
Okay.
That's right. And I think they're working on a VR game called Time Machine.
I just feel like the concept and the idea and the thought was there, and almost made it. There was just a few areas where they could have done much better.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like this game didn't make a splash when it released. Tons of people talked about this game. This game like we mentioned kind of at the beginning, it like started a conversation about these empathy games, or these games that had more ties to maybe more identifiable and realistic problems that gamers might struggle with.
Well, I mean, even critically, like on Metacritic, out of game publications, it's got like a 72 and an 80 user score. That's not terrible. I miss the old days when that was actually a good thing. But now it seems like if it's not like a 9.5, then you guys suck.
Well, I mean, I actually think that touches on like a strange problem that we have right now.
Yeah, that's a
like
whole
just in the game
new
industry.
Conversation.
Yeah,
probably
like
shouldn't get into it right now, but yeah.
There are just so many games coming out now, and there are so many good games coming out that it's just time has become a more precious resource to people, and so maybe that's why you chose this game this week, Daniel, because it is a good game that has been overshadowed over time.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally...
Yeah, it's a good game. It's not a bad game. I think it had a lot more potential in store, but doesn't make it a bad game.
No. And, like, I do appreciate that it at least created or broadened the maybe more mainstream gaming acceptance of stuff, of games that tackled subject matter that was more grounded in reality, like alcoholism. Like, it's hard for me to imagine like games like that Dragon Cancer being taken as seriously without something like this laying the groundwork. But
yeah, I'm with you.
I don't think that this is a best game, period.
Oh, so we're voting now. Okay.
I
mean, I'm with you. I don't really think this is a best game, period. I think it had a lot of potential. I think the underlying story is great. It would be awesome as a graphic novel or a book or whatever. If the gameplay could have been a little more fleshed out, maybe we'd have that conversation. But for now, no.
Well, and as an interesting idea, if we are kind of living in this age of game developers going back and revisiting their older work, and it would be interesting to see minority media going back to Papo y Yo and making like their definitive edition of the game.
Yeah, some sort of crazy re-release where they polish it.
Yeah,
would be awesome.
The director's cut, because this could be like a I don't know what's a movie that really benefited from having a director's cut.
Blade Runner.
I was gonna say Blade Runner, but I mean the original Blade Runner was pretty good.
It was great.
There were times when I was
Alien 3.
There were times while I was checking out this game where it seemed like it was just a really cheap graphic recreation of a thing people would do like in court in like 1996. Does that make sense?
What?
No.
Like the court like artists?
Yeah, like the forensic artists when they're trying to recreate a crime scene. It just seems so kind of stale and not fluid.
Well, there is a lot of like white lines everywhere in the environment.
Yeah, there is. And,
yeah.
The characters are just kind of there and pretty generic, really.
Even beyond giving it like a new coat of paint, like I feel like there are ways you could expand this game that would make it that would benefit it. I feel, I don't know. If minority media, if you ever listen to this, give a thought to remastering Papo y Yo, because I think even today, if you went back and did it right, I think you could have something like it's a special game, but I think you could have something that says closer to what you intended if you went back to it.
Tons of potential. So Daniel, what say you?
Yeah, no, it is not a best game, period. But I do want to make it clear, like, the reason that I wanted to talk about it is because I do think, one, I think there are some people out there, I'm pretty sure I've read some articles recently in the last year, that that people talk about that game, and because it was one of the first well-known games to really tackle such a weighty subject in a pretty interesting way. And there are some cool ideas in there. You know, the whole Papo mechanic it's interesting to look back at it now, because after having played The Last Guardian last year, a lot of stuff in Papo y Yo, I didn't even think about it during The Last Guardian, but the more I thought about this game leading up to the show, the more I was reminded of the similarities between that and The Last Guardian. Like, Trico, every once in a while, Trico will go crazy, and there's a certain thing that sets him off and makes him attack you, and you have to avoid him, and you have to... It's very similar in that way, and then you have to find things to calm him down. And he's your constant companion, just like Papo was, and it really super similar. So this game did that kind of stuff 5 years ago. Last Guardian does it much better, in my opinion, but it's doing different things. Last Guardian's not really an allegorical story in the same way.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're entirely comparable.
They're not the same,
the
but I'm just saying on a mechanical level, they're similar. But then other games like Rhyme is coming out on Friday. I'm super excited for that game, but I'm also kind of a little apprehensive about it because I just don't know. And I could totally see that ending up sort of like a flawed masterpiece, almost masterpiece, like Papo y Yo was. And I mean it when I say, like, Papo y Yo could have really been a masterpiece. It was really close. I reviewed it when it came out, and I did not review it great because of the bugs and because of the flaws that are there. But I still saw what really could have been a great game.
It could have been a contender.
Yeah.
I just want to throw this out there as a disclaimer for my recommendation. Is just that, like, my experience growing up is totally foreign to what kind of relationship this game has between the main character and his father. And just as I was looking through, like, user reviews for the show earlier today, like, there are a number of people who gave this game perfect scores, like 10 out of 10. And I think maybe how people react to this game, could be very, more so than most games, could be very subjective, just because this game does come from a very personal
It could be
place.
very well based on their personal experiences, for sure.
Yeah, like one person who gave this a 10 said that it's possibly the most beautiful and emotionally moving game they've ever played.
I read a lot of those reviews as well, Jack, and it just, it's very personal. Like, it starts out very personal, ends very personal. It's just, in the meantime, the actual gameplay experience kind of subtracts from both of those.
If you either expanded this game or drastically cut the middle section out and made it into, like, I don't know, a 30-minute long game.
Yeah.
Either way, this game could have been amazing.
Yeah, it would be better off like that. I agree.
So we're in agreement.
Yeah.
We are.
Papo y Yo is not a best game, period, according to us. But we'll see when I put out the poll what everybody else thinks about it. I have a feeling this is going to be pretty lopsided again. but we'll see.
We might be surprised. The Soul Calibur was surprisingly polarizing.
It's okay to be
on
lopsided.
Facebook and Twitter. Yeah.
This is episode 64. We can't talk about the greatest games of all time every single week. Sometimes we have to debate whether something is good or not. That's what we're doing.
We totally should have done a Nintendo 64 themed episode for this. We really screwed that one up.
I mean, Jack and I both said we should do that, but you said no. So
yeah, you're the one who suggested this game. It's all on you. You bear the responsibility.
Okay, sure. It's my fault.
Jerk.
You bears.
I own it.
Brother Bear 2. All the bears.
Jack, can you tell everybody about Extra Life?
Sure, I guess. Whatever. It's this awesome charity where you get to play games and you also get to help kids, sick and injured kids, to be precise, in Children's Miracle Network hospitals all across the United States and Canada. Each person who signs up and registers gets to choose which Children's Miracle Network hospital they want to support, and 100% of all the money they raise goes directly to that hospital. So you know where it's going, and you get a cool excuse to play more games, and you get to help people. It's really awesome. You can find out more by going over to extra-life.org, and you can also head over to community.extra-life.org to experience the Extra Life community, which full of wonderful people who just like helping kids. And you can find interesting articles over there, as well as this very podcast. So
Plus,
go check that out, too.
Check out that new t-shirt design they got going on this year. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Shout out to Molly Putman, I believe, designed that.
I'm getting in on that.
Yay!
You know, I have the very first Extra Life t-shirt ever.
Really?
Never been worn, still on a hanger. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the design look like on that one? I don't think I know that one.
I'll have to take a picture. It's blue. It's kind of got the Extra Life emblem. It's pretty generic. I mean, Christ, it was their first year, right?
Yeah, we'll throw that up on our Twitter.
Yeah. In fact, I would gladly give it to somebody that can wear a size large shirt for a small $20 donation to Extra Life.
Well, how about that? We'll throw it up on Extra Life with a link to donate. Maybe.
I mean,
if we remember.
I totally would have worn it if it fit me. But like back then, you didn't get to pick sizes. They just sent you something. Yeah. It was like, okay, here's your shirt.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's cool.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
That's my name.
Jeremy.
Oh, God help me. Yes.
Thank you both for joining me tonight for episode 64 of the Best Games Period. And thank you, good listeners, for joining us as well. You can find the Best Games Period on community.extra-life.org. You can find it on iTunes, Game Informer, Twitter at Best Games Period. You can also find it on SoundCloud under Best Games Period. And you can find us on Libsyn, our hosting site, every Monday when we put up the new episodes. You can also find extra content and extra episodes, such as our Best Video Game Movies Period side podcasts on our Patreon, patreon.com/bestgamesperiod. You can follow us on Facebook under facebook.com/bestgamesperiod. And I believe that's everything. Also YouTube once in a while if you want to watch video versions of the episodes. Some are up and they're really pretty entertaining. So, until next time, we will see you all on the flippity dippity. How long can we hold that silent?
里，没